Hey, okay, I was just doing some technical stuff here. Man, today is not my technical day. What's up, everybody? It's randomly Ronnie Jr. hanging out with Moug and Angie. What's up, you two?
What's up,
Hi.
Ronnie?
I call you radio's superstars, but you guys have reached such high points. But I feel like you guys are going even further. And when I say that, and we'll get into the pop culture in a second, I like the union that you two have. Explain to me where you started. I know one of you started in radio a little bit longer, one kind of came together, and choosing to be a radio team is not easy. And you traveled throughout different cities. Can you guys break that down before we get into some of these fun and slightly salacious hot topics?
Yeah, sure. So we both grew up in Las Vegas. Angie graduated class of 2005.
I'm younger than you.
I was 2004, and I got my start at top 40 radio station there called 98.5 KLUC. Worked there for several years. It was there that I met Angie. And then when I got to go do mornings, and I was looking for a co-host, I thought, why not Angie? And that's been a few years now. And that's a very, very short version of a very long story.
Yeah, very abridged, but you definitely have been in radio not a little bit longer than me, a lot of bit longer than me.
This Halloween will be my career's 17th birthday. So I guess exciting in some way. It's old enough to smoke.
Are you guys a little bit like me, where you always wanted to be involved in a career like radio and broadcasting and all things, communications, or did you kind of fall into it? Because I feel like there's two different walks of life there. I'm one of the people who, when I was a kid, it was get the toilet paper wrapper, hold it as a microphone, and go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like I was on an episode of TRL. Where do you guys stand with the broadcast landscape?
Yeah, for me, it was always radio. And as a young child, that's what I wanted to do. Probably by middle school, I knew I wanted to be on the radio. I just didn't think that was something that was possible. I used to think that was something like being like a movie star or an astronaut. Like that's so out of the question. And so it took a couple of years after I graduated high school before I finally mustered up the courage to go apply at the radio station. And I did. And I started on the street team, setting up the tent and all that stuff, and worked my way into part-time on air and eventually full-time on air, and eventually into mornings, which is really what the goal was, because morning radio, in my opinion, and especially as a kid, was where all the fun was. So I'm definitely not somebody who would ever say that I fell into radio. It was very intentionally, I jumped into radio.
For me, it was that I always wanted to be an entertainer. I just wasn't sure what medium that would be. So I was a theater kid all through high school. When I went to university, I was a theater major. And then I realized, this is not the move. And then I did YouTube for a while. I had my own channel for a while, and I would guest on several other YouTube channels, and that was fun, but it was scripted stuff mostly, or just like mukbangs where I'm just eating a bunch of stuff, or like spicy food challenges. And while I felt like I was entertaining people, that just wasn't where it was at for me. But then I won a radio contest in 2014 to be a fill-in co-host for a morning show. And when I did that, I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's radio, duh. Yeah. And I just hadn't thought of it. And then thankfully I met John Moug, and then everything just kind of came together.
Just worked. I try to tell people that, listen, I love the podcast platform. I love a YouTube platform, really anything, live events too. But there really is nothing like live radio. It is a bit electric to me. I've always seen it that way. Go ahead, John.
Ron, you've done radio, you've done TV, you've done podcasts, you've done it all. And I think that you can do this. Radio, in my opinion, is the only platform that allows you to truly be yourself 100% of the time. If you do TV news or something that's scripted, a lot of what happens on TV is very much scripted. There are some things that are on TV that are a little bit looser, but they're so brief, right? Like you never really have a chance to be yourself in the way that you can in radio. And that's what makes it so fun for me, is you don't necessarily have to play a role or be so serious. You can be yourself and really get to know people on a deeper level than with TV.
And I think in a podcast, you can really be yourself, but with radio, it's like in that moment with live radio, you can connect with your audience, which is something that I don't think a podcast has in an immediate way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah. I'm not
live, and then you're talking about something, and then a listener can text in or call in, and you immediately have that connection. And I think that's something really special.
I'm not knocking the podcast or the on-demand platforms. They're great too. I'm just trying, when I talk to people, sometimes they don't realize, and only you guys would, because you're also radio people, that like there's just something that is so electric, more magnetic in certain ways. To me, it was always the electricity of the city. It was like, wow, like as everyone, and I know radio has changed. I know people do defer to podcasts and stuff like that, but something about everyone waking up on that Monday morning, groggy, trying to get to the bus, the car, the train, whatever it is that you need to do to get to your job, and knowing that you're kind of on the commute with them. To me, that's really, really fun. Tell me a little bit about your pod. Go ahead.
So I was just going to add that radio is something that really is, I've always loved, because you're really in intimate moments with people. When you think about, you're either some people, will listen to you while you're in the shower, which they'll still do, through an app or something, but you listen to them when they're alone in their car. Some people think about what they do. They do their makeup in their car. Some people shave in their car. They eat. They pick their nose, they scratch their butt, like they do all those things, and you're in like a very intimate space.
But in what order? Butt and then the nose? I hope not. Jeez, that's no good.
I'll do that, Ronnie, all right? I thought this was a judgment-free zone.
No, we're judging.
Fitness.
Oh.
We're judging. But you're right about all those things. So you guys taking it to a podcast, tell me what it is that you do. And one thing I'm really bad at is the consistency. But you guys have like a set time and stuff of that nature. So you're building the fan base that way.
Yeah. So every day at 9:00, Angie comes to my house and we do a podcast, and, we plan it out. We talk about what we're going to talk about, not in such extreme detail. One of the cool things about Angie and I is we've worked together for a long time. So we really don't need to go into every single detail. And that's helpful when you want an honest reaction, and when you want a little bit of spontaneity. So I can go, I want to tell you about this, and here's like a blanket subject. This is what I'm going to talk about, and then we'll get into that and go with it. So usually we'll talk about things that are going on in our personal lives, and then we'll talk about other lifestyle and pop culture events and things like that.
Well, and it is good because Ange just had, you have 2 kids. Is it 2?
I do.
You have your family, which, in terms of when I started following your guys' show, you already knew that. But then, John, you kind of like introduced that on, you and your wife, you guys were having a kid through the show, basically.
Yeah. We announced on the air on our radio station that we were working on, that we were having a baby, and it was a month later or so that they let us go. Yeah. So that was a bummer, but through the power of radio and the different radio stations we've worked, and through the power of podcasting, we've been able to build an audience that listens to our show and misses it, when we're gone. And so I think people do care to a certain degree, and they want to know, when we announced, if it was going to be a boy or a girl, which she's going to be a girl. But people do want to know what's going on. And so we try to make a nice balance of here's what's going on in our lives, and then here's our takes on things that are happening in pop culture.
Well, and I love that. I think the old days, it was once you were on a certain job or a radio show, when it ended, you jumped so quickly to get to your next one. And by all means, you're still doing that. We're all still doing that to some degree. But I thought it was very empowering. And I don't know, connection-wise, do you guys, just from afar possibly, when one of the Seattle morning shows that were damn good was the Carla Maria, right, and Anthony's show. And then when they went off of terrestrial, the regular free radio to digital, they like exploded on the digital side of things. So it's really just about the product, not necessarily about the medium as much anymore. But it's fun to watch. Like, to me, this is like shop talk that I enjoy. I'll have to do a whole series devoted to it.
You certainly can build a brand 100% digitally. And I think that Carla Marie and Anthony have done an incredible job with that. And that takes, a lot of time and work. And And that works for a lot of people. You know, for me, my real passion, my love is radio. And so this that we're doing right now, we're doing a podcast because we were doing a podcast when we were doing our radio show. So in addition to our radio show, we also did the podcast. But we just wanted to keep this going, you know, while we find our next opportunity.
Well, I'm a fan. I'm just like Angie. I think she posted on Instagram. She's like, we haven't done a podcast in whatever amount of time it was, because I guess you were on vacation, John.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks.
And I'm the same, where I'm like, I don't catch all of your guys' shows, but the ones that I catch, I'm like, see, these are good storytellers. Like, we don't get that a lot. We have so many people that are succeeding in the TikTok space or the YouTube space or whatever, but a lot of them aren't really compelling. So I like that you guys have your different walks of life. You come together. You've been to, I guess, 3 different markets, really. Vegas market, Idaho market, and Seattle market. So you're just like building these great storylines. So I do hope there's some really monumental big ass radio station that wants to throw you a huge check. But we'll look. Say it again.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah. I'm not a shot caller, so I don't call the shots. But listen, I really do like what you guys do. And it should be said that I almost, a little behind the scenes, I almost ended up working with Moug and Angie. I always wonder if I say it wrong. Moug.
No, Moug is correct.
Moug.
Everybody else says it wrong. Yeah, and you know what, Ronnie? I'm going to be real honest with you right now. I'm glad that you did not.
Oh,
and the reason is because the person who did end up in that situation and the company that we were with at that point in time, which I won't say, gave that person about 3 months before they changed their plan budget wise, and they decided to cut that position. And I would have felt heartbroken for you if you had
moved all the way out here and then been
or wherever we were at that
right.
I mean,
That's why it's so crazy. People like us 3 still love radio so much. Like, even though it's, am I right?
Yeah, it's the most toxic relationship ever.
But it does go to show that it is that good. Like, it is that exciting.
Yeah.
John, I got something I'm dying to ask you about to see if you're up on it just yet. And then we're going to do our pop culture stuff, which would be, we're going to talk about Travis and Taylor and Will and Jada and iconic pop culture moments from back in the day. Although all of our back in the days are going to be different because Angie's a lot younger than me. So when you said how old you were or whatever, I was like, oh shit, I was a grown up by then. But nonetheless, we'll get there. Before we do that, I got one quick little commercial here. Let's check this out and we'll be right back.
Well, hello there. Thank you for watching and supporting the show with my good friend, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Who the hell am I? Great question. My name is Mark Rodriguez with Mastermind Media, and I wanted to take just a moment of your time to let you know about all the other incredible things this guy, Randomly Ronnie Jr. has going on. But first, before we get into that, please comment, like, and subscribe. That is how he grows here on these channels. But one channel you probably don't know about is patreon.com/randomly Ronnie Jr., where he's got a bunch more exclusive content. So please check that out. But speaking of YouTube, let's go back to YouTube for a second. He's got this hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. and it shows all of his stuff in his days in radio from back in the day, all the way up to present day, and his new interviews, podcasts, just videos across the board. So please check that out, because when you think about content creators, there's millions of content creators, but there's only one, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Let's get back into the show.
That's right. There is only one Coca-Cola, baby.
Is there a Randomly Ronnie Sr.?
Well, I mean, yeah, Junior came from, okay, so the whole thing, RJ is what a lot of people call me too. Okay. So like, you know how when you go to the emails, it's like Ronnie Jr. and then you end up just put cheers, RJ. I think I've done that to your guys' emails before. And so it was a lot of RJ, but then Randomly came from years ago when I was in a hosting class, a broadcast class, and they were like, what's your brand? What's the thing you absolutely want to talk about? I was like, well, I kind of want to do it all. So that's where Randomly came from. But yeah, there was always the real life authentic concept that there's Ronnie Jr.
Your father's first name is not Randomly.
It's they named him randomly at birth. Yes, that's what happened. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You got it. See, hard hitting interviewer right here.
First name randomly, last name randomly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I always tell people I don't really care if you know my name. I just care if you hit my Cash App. That's what I care about more than anything. Hit that damn Cash App. Hit that Patreon. Okay, so I'm dying to ask you, and Angie, maybe you watch the show too. Have you watched the new Frasier? It's out. We bonded when I was tentatively gonna go to Seattle with this radio duo. This is where my bias for them is. I got into all things Seattle. I was like, 10 things I hate about you, right? 10 things I hate about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm just like I watch what's the Seattle Fire show called? What is that called?
Fire show.
The Grey's Anatomy spinoff. It's called. It's something.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
But I don't know what it's called. But yes.
I was gonna say I now never miss an episode, but yet I can't think of the name. But I got into all things Seattle, and one time we were talking either on Instagram or on like the email or whatever, or some of our meetings that we had, and I got so into Frasier when I had not been into Frasier ever in life. But I always loved Cheers, and then you told me you guys also like Frasier. Have you started watching the new version where he's back to Boston?
So start the clock. I'm going to go for about 5 minutes here. First of all,
let me give you your close-up.
10 things I hate about you. I want to address this because that was filmed at Stadium High School in Tacoma, which Stadium High School's stadium you'll see in that movie is right on the water, and it's beautiful. Just 2 weeks or so ago, it was when I was on my cruise. I'm so bummed. I found out about this after the fact. They did a screening of 10 Things I Hate About You on the field at Stadium High School in Tacoma. Yeah.
I did not know about this. 10 Things I Hate About You was like the most formative movie for me when I was growing up. I mean, obsessed. I still watch it all the time.
Yeah,
I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah, me too. They did a screening on the field where that movie took place, where Heath Ledger did the whole
can't take my eyes off of you.
And so bummed that I missed out on that. Now let's talk about Frasier. So Frasier was the spinoff of the TV show Cheers. Both of those shows went for 11 years. Frasier started in 1993, ended in 2004, which was nearly 20 years ago. I don't know if you know this. My wife Stacy and I went down to Los Angeles in April, and we saw a taping of the new Frasier. So we actually got to be there in person for episode 6, which has not been released yet. And when we went to see episode 6, they showed us the first episode to get us caught up, and then we watched them film episode 6. Now, I will say this: if you're a fan of the original Frasier, I think you have to give them a little bit of. I think sometimes when there are reboots or spinoffs, people are just wanting what they had in the past. And the reality is that's not going to happen. There are people who are mad that David Hyde Pierce is not there to play Niles and that Ian Leaves is not there to play Daphne. But the premise of the show is that Frasier is moving back to Boston and rebuilding his relationship with his son. And when you think in a real life way, it would be weird for just the whole family to pack up and go to Boston so that Frasier can work on his relationship with his son. And so you don't necessarily see all those people. There are going to be some cameos, but not everybody's going to appear. I think that they did a great job with it. You also got to take into consideration, and you got to give Kelce Grammer a little bit of grace, because this is a 68-year-old guy playing a character that in the 1990s, when he was in his 40s, essentially, was a very energetic, over the top character. But you know what? I think by the time I'm 68, I'm going to slow down a little bit too. And so, you got to give that a little bit of grace and maybe give it a little bit of time. But I think that it's really good, and I really enjoyed the Frasier reboot.
And you're caught up now.
Yeah, I'm all caught up.
I'm with you. I am caught up, and I'll be watching every week. Yeah, I've seen the first 2 episodes is what they released. Yeah. And I was more of a Cheers fan as a kid. Like, that's what we watched every week. Yeah. When it was the finale, like I was like sitting on the carpet looking at the big TV, a little like 7 or 8-year-old, your hands like this, just looking up. I was mesmerized by what Cheers was, which was really funny because as you grow up, you're like, that was about a bar. Yeah. you didn't realize, because it was so much like human like interaction and story and being there for each other. Frasier, however, maybe it's just I was growing up, I didn't really connect with right away. It was up until we all started talking about Seattle radio, and if I were to join on some level with you guys, that I was like became like the Seattle guy. Like I wanted to know everything, and I was like, oh my God, Frasier's amazing. So to your point of like, does it still hold up? I think it holds up in a really cool way. Like there was a joke he made where he's like, because refined Frasier, the Seattle show for all those years, and then he says something like, I don't know what it is about this city that I always want to just drink a cold beer. Meaning he was not a beer drinker in the Seattle version of Frasier, but then he's back to Cheers land or Boston land. It's just those little jokes are good for me. I like it. Yeah.
And he even said in the new Frasier, he said, last time I lived in Boston, I spent a little too much time at a certain bar.
Yeah, those are good for us. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a fun nod to Cheers, which that show, I mean, that's so long ago. And you're right. Cheers is a show that I know as a little kid, because I was born in 86, probably a few years into Cheers, but as a little kid, that theme song, which is it's Gary Portney. I think the title is Everybody Knows Your Name, or Where Everybody Knows Your Name. But that, like, because it was at such a influential age, like that's just stuck in my head. And so and like the picture of the bar and the Where Everybody Knows Your Name, and it's very much like a comfort food for probably a lot of people of our generation. And I think also in the 1990s, if you're in elementary, middle, even high school, Frasier was not your show, because that was a show for adults. That was adult humor. They were pretentious, and that was I think we were all friends.
Wait, you're saying what I was? Oh, you love Frasier.
I watched Frasier in its original run, and then you got into it when you were an adult.
I didn't get Frasier at all.
But I agree with Angie.
I was always surprised at what I did understand at that age. I should watch it now, because probably I would understand more. I don't claim to think that I was so refined as a child, but I loved Frasier back then. I want to rewatch the whole thing and then watch the reboot.
Oh, the only other thing I'll add about Frasier when I was a kid, the one thing that I liked was Daphne. She was British and quirky and cute, and so that caught my eye. But everything about Frasier when I was a kid, I was not interested in. And then when I watched it as an adult, I was like, "Oh, this is hilarious!" And
it's so good. And maybe, Ange, like you said, you jumped in watching Frasier, maybe didn't even have the reference point of Cheers as much. But I'm agreeing with Moug a little bit, where it's like, yeah, if you were a Cheers fan, you were like, you were getting older and you were a teenager, and teenager is more of a rebellious time, So Frasier, Crane, Dr. Crane, it didn't work. But now I'm like, I'm such a Frasier. Like I'm as neurotic as they come. So it's always so funny, different times in your life when you watch a show. Yeah. When I was younger, we'll switch for a second. Sex and the City, you would have never had me liking, what's the pretentious one's name? Charlotte, right? Charlotte.
Oh, I love Charlotte. Yeah.
I was a stick in the mud Miranda all my life. Now let me tell you, the refined wannabe that I am, I'm such a Charlotte in my head, so it does change.
I always thought I was watching Sex and the City when I probably shouldn't have been. I think I was in 6th grade when I saw the episode about the funky spunk, and it was like, I shouldn't know about this. But I always felt like I was a mix between Samantha and Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So like I wanted to be a slutty slut, but I only wanted it to be for my husband. You know what I mean? Like
okay.
Of the two. But I feel like now I appreciate Miranda more now that I'm an adult.
Yeah. Do you guys have any, as we were sort of talking about like Frasier and even the other Seattle, the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, is there any other encompassing like Seattle stories that you guys want to share in terms of what makes it such a wonderful city?
You know what? What I love most about Seattle is I love this time of year. I think the thing that people dislike about Seattle is that once you hit like October, November, it turns gray and it stays that way until like March. And then there's amazing summers in Seattle. You can't beat it. I, as a kid who grew up in Las Vegas, a kid who grew up in the desert, for me, it was always novelty when it would rain. And so I love rainy days. Like I can't get enough of it. So it could rain for 180 days straight. And I'd be like, ooh, look, it's raining. Other people, my wife doesn't love the constant gray so much. She really loves it here in Seattle, but she doesn't necessarily love the gray or the rain. But I love the rain. And also the rain is how we pay for all the beautiful greenery that we have in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that's I grew
Yeah.
up in the desert too. And so it's been nice having seasons.
Yeah.
Like, and the fall colors. But I don't live in Seattle. You're in West Seattle. I live in Kirkland, which is like suburb, I guess.
Yeah.
And what I like is the sense of community that I have here that I never felt like I had in Vegas. And in Vegas, it always felt like everything was so spread out and you didn't know your neighbors.
Mhm.
And I mean, and I moved around a lot in Vegas. So it wasn't like just in my neighborhood, nobody knew. It just felt like everywhere I went, there just wasn't that like connection. And where I live now, I feel like there's such a big sense of community. And then when I talk to people from different parts of the state, I feel like they always tell me stories about like, oh, and then we went to this camp when we were little and and everybody knows each other. And I didn't have that in Vegas. And it's nice to have that here. And for my children to have that, because they're like, when we lived in Vegas, we didn't have any friends. Like but this was because they're losers though. No, that's not
Oh
but like here it's like, oh, because everybody like knows each other and everybody it feels like having that childhood, like when you were little and you would go outside and play with your friends and not come back inside until the street lights or whatever. It feels like my kids have that here. And that's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I've told you guys, I like cities. I like bustling cities. I always tell you guys that New York is like my heart, you know? I grew up in Southern California, but New York always feels the best. But when I looked at Seattle as a potential place to go, I was like, this is really a version of that, you know, like the San Franciscos, you know, these big cities or whatnot. But yeah, it's very cool to look at. Okay, shifting gears. Moug and Angie, you can catch their podcast all the time. They are more consistent than me. And it's very funny, it's very informative, but they also like throw out like really cool personal stories, which is really what makes a great radio talent. As we're talking about pop culture, what do you two want to weigh in terms of the circus that is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift? Is it overdone? Are we romantically happy for them? Why don't you guys take it away with your opinions on that?
I love when Taylor Swift dates anyone. It's exciting to me because I like to judge if I think a couple has chemistry or not. And I think Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, I don't think they look like they have chemistry. I don't think they have anti-chemistry. I just think they look like they're having a fun and dandy time. People are, I think, going way overboard in terms of the hate that they're giving Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce on some level just for existing in the same space together. Like, I don't get why it's so polarizing, why people I feel like either love it, like, oh my God, and he opened the door like a normal thing that guys do. What an amazing man. But people get like super excited, or they're like, oh my, I can't believe it. Ew, why are they together? And it's like, because they're just who are dating, who cares?
I want to talk about the relationship itself. And I think a lot of times we as human beings, we react and we do the opposite of what we did before. Like when me and my wife moved into this townhouse, we moved into this townhouse that is a bit smaller and it's 4 floors. It's not a very big place. It's like, you know, a bedroom, a living room, a bedroom, and like it's a stacked place. But it's basically brand new. And this place was a reaction to our last house, which was 110 years old. There weren't very many outlets. It was cold. We were, you know, heating the house by it was like an old oil furnace. It was really expensive. And so this house was a reaction to that. I have a point that I'm driving at. I think that Taylor Swift, this is a 180 from Joe Alwyn, who she was dating before. Joe Alwyn, look at Joe Alwyn, okay? This is a guy who is a handsome guy, but he's very artistic, not someone who's so into the fame. And he and Taylor Swift were with each other for a long time. And it sounds like they had a lot of really great chemistry and they had a lot of great times together. And it was really a shocker when they split, but nobody knows. I think the Swifties know a lot about Joe Alwyn, but beyond that, Joe Alwyn is sort of a mystery to a lot of the world.
It was more of a private relationship. They weren't stepping out together all the time.
It felt to me like he was not a man of the fame that comes with Taylor Swift. And I'm sorry, that's not something that you can avoid. If you're going to be with a Taylor Swift, you got to know that this is not a regular celebrity.
Yeah.
You know, this is a beyond, you know, level superstar. And I think that this Travis Kelce relationship, this Travis Kelce is unlike anybody really that Taylor Swift has been with. She typically goes with the more like artsy guys. Travis Kelce is a football star. He's loud. He has a podcast. He's a completely different type of guy. And so I think to some degree, it's almost like I want to try something different and have some fun. And if it lasts, cool. If it doesn't last, cool. But right now we're having fun. The world's taking note. I don't know that it's intentionally a publicity stunt. I don't like to say that about people.
But it could benefit both of their careers or their moment. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of eyes on Taylor Swift right now. I'm sure she doesn't hate that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also for Travis Kelce and the NFL. I mean, you've seen some of these stats, Ronnie, right? Like Travis Kelce, I think after she went to that first game, I think he gained like 340-something thousand Instagram followers.
I thought he was going to talk about football stats. I was like, no, I don't know.
No, but the sales of
You're saying the relevancy of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
His
Wow.
relevancy went up. And look,
his podcast is number one.
And look, Travis Kelce was a football star before.
Right. And we know he loves the spotlight if he already had that one reality show,
right.
You know.
Yes, Chasing Kelce.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I think it's good probably for both of them. Like have some fun. And you know what? I think that I think when you have stars that are on that level, and there are very few, I think it's Taylor Swift and Beyonce, and probably that's it. Right now, I think that the world does take note when they go to a football game. I mean, when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs players, when you saw their reaction when they looked up, and these are people who are celebrities. You know that you're a star when other celebrities are in awe of your mere presence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The little buzzworthy moment that happened, that was created. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with you. I didn't even think of that. Where like, yeah, you do choices based on like you did it this way, and you want the antithesis of that next go round. And I also think, because I always do an evaluation in my head of the great Jennifer Lopez and who she should end up with, you know, her end game, because I don't think it's Ben. But what? But
discussion about this, but yes, go continue.
Another podcast.
Yeah. Well, you know, I could talk about J-Lo all day, every day. But with J-Lo, like, it's weird. I remember when she got with A-Rod, and I was like, oh, I don't know that I like that either. She's a Mark Anthony, by the way. In my opinion, J-Lo, Mark Anthony should always be endgame. That's my opinion. But when she got with A-Rod, I remember I'm trying to get to a point of what you were kind of saying, where it's like, Mark works because A-Rod would work because he's a world-class athlete, the same way she's demanding that world-class performance level, you know, at the Super Bowl as a performer, you know. And I think sometimes, yeah, you need that person who matches. So if you've got, in Taylor Swift's case, if you've got an artistic guy who doesn't like the limelight, that may not work as well as Travis Kelce, who's like, yes, my brother has a new Amazon documentary out. Like he must really be into this. So that is kind of a
and then I like that it's not even like a competing. So let's say she was with for instance, when she was with Harry Styles, right? So he's a pop star in his own right. But then that can feel like maybe there's some sort of a competition there. Travis Kelce is in a medium that has nothing to do with what she does. You're not going to see her punting a football or anything. And the same way that you're not going to see him gyrating on stage to pop songs. And so that whole thing of like, there not being any competition.
Right. Cause it's like, babe, how's your record sales? Babe, how was your music video? Like that's a little too
someone in sports versus, you know, someone in music.
Well, next time I'm over here on the Tinder and the grinder, I'm gonna ask both of you my single self is just like loving life, but at the same time, I'll consult with you next time.
Yeah,
no,
please do.
Thank you.
I think they're great. I think it's fun. Like I said, a little bit of it, like, is it opportunistic or is it more just like it benefits everybody? Like, and it benefits the fan base too, you know? And what an exciting time if you're the mother. Like, you're the mother, both of your son, Travis Kelce's mother, or what's the brother's name?
Oh my
Travis
gosh,
and,
I forgot. And he's
that's
literally
nice.
on my team. I'm an Eagles fan.
Oh, okay.
I don't-
James?
Jason?
It's not James.
Hold on.
Michael?
Chelsea. See,
It's
What?
Jason, it's
It
Jason.
is Jason. I was right. Okay, Jason.
yeah. But like for a moment, imagine you're the mother and both of your sons are these world-class athletes, and that's kind of like enough. And then they go to the Super Bowl, and that's like enough.
Yeah.
But then you have another gigantic moment where like all of a sudden one of your sons is dating somebody who causes this much excitement. I mean, I was watching Saturday Night Live and they were both there, you know,
Yeah.
kind of continuing to keep the attention going or whatever, and it looked like they kind of went out and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely cute. Shifting gears, Moug and Angie, make sure you check out their podcast. Very, very good. They're radio superstars, so you know it's going to be great. What are we thinking relationship-wise in the pop culture space? Jada's talking to Hoda Kotb. Had you been a fan before? Were you a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fan? Did you watch Jada in Set It Off? Did you watch her in A Different World? Where do you sit with these two?
I have so many thoughts. Okay, so I've always loved Will Smith, and I loved him and Jada together. I was like J. Cole, thinking like I want that Will and Jada kind of love. When she started, it all started for me when she was talking about the entanglement with August Alsina, and it was the Red Table Talk, and Will, who became a meme because it was that like face where he had the watery eyes. And,
yeah.
And that's where I was like, oh no, I hate this. And then the more she talked, the more I thought, oh, I don't want Will Smith to be with her. And then the slap happens, all of this, and I'm just thinking I need Will and Jada to get a divorce. I don't like it. I think they're toxic for each other because I was watching a lot of Red Table Talk, and it just never seemed like they were the vibe. And then I thought, okay, cool. I haven't heard anything about Will and Jada in a minute. Maybe, they can move forward. But now she has this memoir and she's doing interviews with Hoda Kotb. She's saying, oh, actually, Tupac was my soulmate, but we didn't have chemistry. And
doesn't make sense.
Which doesn't make sense. And then, turns out we were actually estranged. Like we were separated since 2016. I hadn't called him my husband. It's weird that he was calling me his wife when the slap happened, all this stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, Jada, stop talking and get a divorce. I told Moug that I want Will Smith to be photographed making out with someone with a full head of hair because
whoa.
Because I'm just so mad at Jada. Like at this point, just get a divorce. I don't like to wish divorce on anyone, but like it's too much. I hate it. I don't think they should be together. Your kids are grown. And and I just feel like Will Smith, he really, after he slapped Chris Rock, like that was horrible. He shouldn't have done that. But it seems like he did it for Jada in like a weird, misguided, whatever. And I just want him to wash his hands of all things Jada Pinkett Smith and just like move forward. And I think, honestly, if they split up, that would redeem Will Smith in a lot of people's eyes.
I think so too. I have a lot of thoughts on this too, Ronnie, and I'll start with the fact that yesterday.
And here I was worried us three wouldn't have anything to talk about.
I'll start with yesterday. Will Smith made a post where he was on a boat. At one point, he was sleeping, and then he was just enjoying himself on the water, and he posted all notifications off. And I think the message he's sending there is like, this is a lot right now. I just want to be away from all of it, and understandably so. Let's go back to the Oscars slap, which I don't condone violence. I don't think that he should have ever physically assaulted Chris Rock. I can understand where the frustration has come from. And when you think of, you find out this bombshell, how they've been split for 7 years. Is that right?
Since 2016.
Yeah. Already. And obviously there was some agreement where they didn't want the public to know that. And I feel like for Will Smith, who I have, I saw Set It Off in the 90s. I was a kid though. I don't think I have the same connection to Jada Pinkett as I do Will Smith. I've seen all of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I've seen Men in Black and Men in Black 2. I've seen Independence Day. and Pursuit of Happiness. And I mean, I
We're
can
Will
go
Smith
on.
fans,
Yeah,
He was great in Ali. Yeah, absolutely.
And I really feel like by the time between the entanglement and because no matter what, right, whether you're doing Red Table Talk and the idea is like you're being vulnerable and all these things, no matter how vulnerable you are and how you can move through those situations, there's no way that those feelings don't build up. And by the time the Oscar slap happened, and now that we know this other thing, that like Will Smith is at a point now where, and this was not long after the August Alsina thing, because that was in 2021
2020
or 2020. Well, either way, I think he had got to a point where, and I am not a toxic masculinity person, and I am not a person with a super fragile ego, but I can understand how at a certain point you'd feel like, God, all that happens in regards to this person is I get disrespected, whether it's from her, whether it's from Chris Rock now in this instance. And there's probably so much frustration that's built up in that. And to know also that she's not, I mean, she's still his wife, but essentially estranged. And he's sitting here having to pretend to, be together still and do all those things. I'm sure he was at a breaking point.
Think about it. The entanglement doesn't seem so bad if there was the knowledge that they had already been separated.
It's not so much of an entanglement, and we're working through this through our marriage. If the marriage was a marriage that was on the sidelines,
Ross on that. So if they were already separated and then this happens, it doesn't look as bad. But because it was like, well, we're not going to say that we're whatever. So now you have your husband sitting there at a Red Table Talk where you're talking about hooking up with somebody else. Like,
well, and let's be honest, Will Smith is a lot more famous than Jada Pinkett. Like, a lot of people know Jada Pinkett, but in the grand scheme of things, Will Smith is, I think, a few levels more famous. And so I think probably hurts him more than it hurts her. For her, now we're all talking about Jada Pinkett. You know what I mean? And then he just probably to some degree feels like a fool.
Especially because it was, I think, like a span of 2 years where it was all, and she wouldn't shut up. She just kept leaving these nuggets of how crappy her marriage is to Will Smith. And he was making the movie that he won the Oscar for. I imagine on his end, it was probably feeling like, I really worked so hard making this movie, playing this role that is iconic for me. It's important to me because it's Venus and Serena Williams and, playing their father. And all of that seems to be getting overshadowed by my wife talking about extramarital things that happened. And so leading up to that Oscars moment, which of course we don't condone, but you got to say it again so that no one takes anything out of context. I understand the frustration because now he's trying to enjoy the Oscars, which was supposed to be about him, a moment about him, and then a joke about Jada. And it's like, I just can't anymore.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You bring that up. I didn't even think about the fact that he had that movie, and like, because everything was overshadowed by that.
Everything was overshadowed. Yeah. I hadn't even seen the movie, but after that, I wanted to see it because for one, it won. But secondly, I was like, I want to be able to celebrate that movie as it was supposed to be celebrated. And unfortunately, it didn't get to really see that type of success.
For Will Smith is sort of an America's sweetheart in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of those beloved people. And so I think that the last couple of years have probably sucked for him. Like, he's got the Jada Pinkett thing. He's got the Chris Rock slap. He's just trying to move on and do his own thing. And then now she's like, I'm just going to blast everything about our entire relationship.
Well, because I have a memoir now. I'm just exhausted by Jada.
I got a couple thoughts and even just opinions because, here's the difference. Everything is different yet similar. The three of us separately within our own lives, and all of us have been in radio for some time now, and we know what needs to be put on to the show, and we have to give vulnerability. It's the way that it works, and it's the way that you do create success. But you have to have your own interpersonal boundaries, I think, and it always was odd to me that she chose to go this route of exposing so much. I thought of it as like, you have the red table talk. Your husband is the biggest star in the world, whether you're together or you're not. That is your prerogative. To be quite honest, it is their prerogative. And I've never been really a fan of Will Smith too much. Like I've always looked real side eye, like something ain't adding up. This was years ago. I won't pile on him now because it does suck where he's at, dealing with a lot of this.
Yeah.
But I've been saying it for years, and everyone's like, no. But I went to an event and this and that, or I was an extra on this set and or I was in production, friends or whatever. He's so wonderful. I'm like, listen. Somebody who walks up to everybody in the room to pose as presentable, or I'm sorry, warm, is maybe somebody that isn't exactly that warm. It's always something that I've kind of side-eyed. If you're warm, it's because you're warm, not Ronnie's on set and I go talk to every extra so I could have a reputation of being warm. So that always kind of got me. Anyways, I know I'm jumping topics slightly. What made me shocked is that Jada had the biggest star in the world, attached to her name. Red Table Talk was a chance to do, and you guys could relate to this, to do interviews with substance. Everywhere else you go, I'm a reality TV, expert. You see the little cast members, they go and they want to sell a product or they want to do something great philanthropically, but it only gets edited, the mess, because a lot of platforms you don't have control. Jada had control, in my opinion. I don't know what her deal with Facebook was, to create a wonderful show, like a James Lipton type behind the actors studio. What's it called? Yeah. And she chose to switch all that up and go the route that everyone else does, like, messy reality TV. And that's one of the things that really was
messy.
It didn't make sense, because I'll tell you right now, and I don't know where you guys have had to like share certain stuff on air. That's why I said it's different yet the same. We all relate. I know that sometimes even the things I've had to do on radio or television or whatever the case, or even just jobs in general, you do them because we have to. But let me be married to the biggest star in the world and Facebook throws me a check. I'll tell you right now, I'm giving an interview series. We are talking about the craft. We are talking about the work. And when I'm also in the luxury where I don't have to worry about paying my bills because, of course, everything is going okay, I would do a Red Table Talk that looked a little bit different. It shocked me. It always shocked me that we were at this stage that you had to, even as big of a star as Jada and Will were or are, that they had to cross over to do what everyone else has to sort of do to make it.
I'm wondering at this point if Will and Jada don't get divorced, if that's a money thing. Like, do they have a prenup? I don't imagine. When did they get together, in 97? I don't imagine they have a prenup. So if Will Smith and Jada are staying together because he doesn't want to lose half, I feel like that makes some sense to me. But at this point, I mean, let me lose half and try.
I was gonna say, what is your price? Like things cost. It's like you get the keys to the kingdom. You don't think that's gonna come with a cost. Like, if you want to do that route and go that route, then there's gonna be that compromise, that boiling up inside, which leads you to do what you did to Chris Rock. It's really, like I said, I had been a little bit more frustrated with it years ago, or like before, but now that everyone's sort of like seeing some of the breakdown in their relationship, I'm not as much wanting to pile on to that, because that's just not who I am. But for years I'd hear people talk about how wonderful Will was, and I was like, oh no, something is like not clicking. Like if you really look in, it's because
that's like overcompensating for
overcompensating. Yeah. You go on a set and you just like go talk to all the extras. Whereas like another actor may not do that. That doesn't make that actor mean, but it's like you're purposely doing that to show the world and show the set and show the directors and show the cast. Oh gosh, did you see Will Smith goes and talks to everybody? Isn't he nice?
Well, no matter what, when you're at that level of celebrity, there's a drive for more. And I think different people take different paths to get there. Some people take the nice path. Some people take the mean path. There's been stars that have been really,
Christian Bale.
Yeah, when he had his freak out and all those things. And
and he's an actor. Yeah.
I think when you're an actor, you can get away with that more. But I don't think Will Smith is in that category. So I think he feels like he has to be.
Well, and there's, it also, in my opinion, it depends on how you came up and however you did. for example, there's a lot of radio people. I knew a guy, and I actually, kind of give him credit for it. I knew a guy who's a radio guy who was excellent at wherever he went, making sure that he met every single person in the room. And so we did any sort of radio station event. He did it even to a point where we went to a wedding for a friend once, and he went and met every single person in the room. And I think, you got to ask, what's the motivation behind that? Is it because he really wants to know everybody in the room, or is it because he wants everybody in the room to know him? Whatever the case, a lot of times if you're on that level of success, whether it's actor, musician, politics, if you're in that upper echelon, if you're the president, no matter who the president is, whether they're mean or kind, they got there because there's a certain personality type that wants that, who wants all of that. And so it's just your method of getting it. And so maybe there's some genuine niceness that comes in, and maybe Will Smith is genuinely nice to all these people.
Yeah.
But I understand your point in wondering what's the motivation.
Well, and mine might be biased because I'm gonna tell you one thing. When I started in radio, this was years before, and I remember at that time in my life, based on my story, I had never been able to sort of come out. You know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, all the songs are booty, 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 rocking everywhere. How are you going to come and be like, oh yeah, I'm a gay guy doing radio? It just didn't really fit in those early 2000s.
Booty.
Huh?
You just wanted a dude booty. What's wrong with that?
Put that on a t-shirt. You just wanted a dude booty. Did
I
I tell you this guy's talented or what? But what I'm saying is, like, I remember in that era, because I was sort of a little afraid to let that information out, I overly was nice to everybody. Like, and I remember people would be like, you're so nice. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But I remember thinking, if I could just like work the room over and be really warm, first of all, I'll never have anyone against me. And why? Because if they are against me, what's it like to go toe to toe? So somebody for the most part of my early part of my radio career, 2001 to like 7, 8, I was very pushover-y because I never wanted to have issues with anybody. Because when you start having issues, your mama jokes and you're this and you're that, your busted lip, it's just like you'll go for the jugular. And I was so at that time very worried. Oh, maybe somebody will clock. Oh, and not that being a gay guy is a bad thing. It's actually quite fun. But my point is, like, I relate to that part of it. And that's why I was trying to say, us as broadcasters, we know that kind of dance between putting your authentic self out there, holding certain things back. And, you just don't want to ever do anything where you present something and get the flowers for it. And that's not necessarily who you are, because if you do that, there's going to be the tension. And I had a lot of tension prior to 2008, but now I'm like, look at you, stupid. Now I don't care, because I have that liberation in terms of like, I don't mind not being known as the warmest person in the room. I don't care, because I'm very clear with myself, so none of these are exactly the similar thing of like Will and Jada. And I do have a little sympathy in terms of, your whole life is out there. I just sometimes wish the celebrities at that level, they have a little bit more power and availability to say no to things. And it always makes me kind of like shocked and feel bad for them when they go down the routes that a lot of other people have to go down, because now we are in a salacious world where the news has to be salacious. Even we're in a world where, The View, I used to watch The View and it was just like nice ladies chatting and I still love The View, but it's like everything has been elevated. And so when you have that structure, I'm kind of like, why Jada? Why does this need to come to Red Table Talk? Like, why? Like don't play Will like that. Why?
Yeah, it's a lot to put your whole family on blast on a regular basis. You know.
Sorry, I made it about myself. I always do. This is why people hate my show.
No, I think it was analogous. Is that it was like an analogy. It was analogous.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, wrapping it up. So again, we have Moug, Angie, and randomly Ronnie Jr. Just talking about all things pop culture. Can you guys end the show here? We're just going to talk about iconic pop culture moments as you grew up. Something that was like, ooh, I want to be in this, or this really shaped me in some kind of way. What do you guys got?
Okay, so for me, it's a little bit more recent, and I don't know. For me, it was iconic, and it was when Sweet Brown was bartending on Watch What Happens Live, and the guests were Shamar Moore, and I don't know who the other guest was, because the moment
you got me at Shamar Moore, but keep going.
Shamar Moore. Okay, so for Sweet Brown, ain't nobody got time for that. She was the guest bartender, and things got very weird. A lot of alcohol was being consumed, and at the end of the show, Shamar Moore made out with Sweet Brown, and it was glorious. Because I don't think that she expected Shamar Moore of what was his? I remember him from Young and the Restless.
He's on some crime
But he was
show.
on-
He's on, I think, SWAT now. Yeah. I mean, but he's been around forever.
FBI one too, and I think
Okay.
what he was on when that happened. And it for me, it was everything, because she was the guest bartender because she had her viral 15 minutes of fame from doing the ain't nobody got time for that.
Mm-hmm.
But him, an accomplished actor who was there as Andy Cohen's guest answering questions and whatever, and he just was like, screw it. And they did the shot ski, they drank the shot ski, and then he kissed her. And for me, it lives rent free in my head. And I made Moug watch it the other day because I just thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen.
Did you guys see that I took a shot with Reba McEntire recently?
No.
You did?
Yeah, keep talking. Somebody's talk. I'm gonna pull up the little clip here. Somebody, Moug, tell your story, and then I'm gonna get to it.
Before I do, why doesn't Angie do a performance of the theme song from Reba?
Did you watch Reba too?
I love Reba, a single mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops, with gentle hands and the heart of a fighter. I'm a survivor.
Okay, this is not the best clip. Sorry, I was like listening also.
Okay.
I was not prepared here, but we were talking about Watch What Happens Live. It'll come up in a little bit.
Watch What Happens Live, and Andy Cohen, I guess someone asked if she'd ever done poppers, and she was like,
oh, because she was on there with Troye Sivan, and she says, "What's a popper?" And they were like, "I'll tell you after the show." It was really a great show. I'll run this other clip first for a second while we're talking about Watch What Happens Live. So yeah, earlier in July, you saw this.
Yeah, like it's nothing for us to beef about.
Okay. Here's Ronnie, also from LA, with a question for Aaron.
Hi.
What's up, Andy? Candy, you are worldwide. Just letting everybody know.
Yeah, she knows.
Quick question for Aaron. Loving the season. Why do you think Brynn said on Watch What Happens Live that you couldn't be trusted? And where do you stand with her today?
I think she said that because of Cheesegate, because she felt like I was being disingenuous about the conversation, which I wasn't. It will all play out. We love each other, but we butt heads. And
all right.
It happens over and over again.
Thank you, virtual fans.
Yeah, so that was in July, but then this past week, I have a better clip, but this is the one I'm going to use. Reba was on with Troye Sivan, Watch What Happens Live. Darn, the clip is still processing. Okay, Moug, back to you.
Okay, so in terms of pop culture, iconic pop culture moments, I'm going to bring up the VMAs in 2009. The first thing, of course, that everybody thinks of is Taylor Swift, Kanye West. That whole thing is wild, of course. And really, who won in that? Because Taylor Swift is owning things now. But that same year, and this is something that's often overshadowed, and Angie reminded me of it recently, was when Jay-Z and Alicia Keys were performing one of the biggest songs of 2009, which was Empire State of Mind. And out of nowhere, Lil Mama came on stage and just started dancing around with them. Kanye was not the only one to interrupt at the VMAs in 2009.
She was feeling it, yeah.
And Jay-Z and Alicia Keys are performing this. I mean, Empire State of Mind is an epic song. And they had a great performance, but for no reason.
Well, and there's even a little clip that shows, like, before she goes on stage, Beyonce literally is like trying to stop from going on stage. I would heed Beyonce's advice if
Beyonce
it were
says
me.
no.
But no, she was really feeling it.
Did she like also try to get Beyonce to come on stage also with her? Or was that maybe that was a different clip? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, here's the thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, Beyonce didn't come to the MTV Awards." It's like because every time she goes, she can't just sit there and watch the show.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback what you're saying though, the significance in terms of pop culture of the MTV Awards, because while I understand things have changed over the years and digital, social media, there's other shows in town. Let's say. Growing up, the significance, even from day one, Madonna performing like a virgin. And, Madonna's got her Celebration World Tour right now where she's covering all the decades. Like, I just look at all those wonderful Britney Spears MTV Video Music Award events.
The Kiss was at the VMAs, right?
Yes.
And
yeah,
then
that was
the Eminem Christina Aguilera awkwardness when
Yes.
she presented him with that award.
She presented him with the award. I remember the 1997 VMAs watching an interaction between Busta Rhymes and Martha Stewart, and they were presenting together, and it was magical. Looking back, I feel like Busta Rhymes was probably high or drunk, but back then I didn't know because I was in 5th grade. And they had such a funny interaction, and it was like, gosh, at the VMAs, anybody can come together. What
was the VMAs also when this is a little further back when Mariah and Whitney Houston came in the same dress, but the Mariah had a tearaway?
Yes.
They don't make moments like that anymore.
Or when was it in the VMAs when it was Lil Kim and she was wearing the thing and then the whatever, and Diana Ross went on stage and did a little to her boob. I mean, the VMAs, man. What
Anything
a time.
goes.
That's why I get so saddened when people are like, "Oh, it doesn't even matter. It's not relevant or whatever." I hate that word. But it was for so many years, and it was like the big show in town. And I just think there's lots of really great MTV VMA.
Like the VMAs this year, I watched it mostly because I'm a Shakira, like obsessed with Shakira. And
nice.
The Video Vanguard Award, and she did an epic performance, and it was like a medley, 10 minutes long of all her hits. I think MTV is not where you go to watch music videos, but I think if you watch the VMAs, you still get some great content out of it. But people always forget about it because ridiculousness is on for 19 hours a day.
I know, and all I want them to play is old reruns of The Real World, but that's neither here nor there. Come on, MTV. Iconically, also J-Lo with the Versace green dress originally.
Oh yeah,
that was an MTV. That was a Google break. Oh, that was a Grammy. Oh, okay. We'll see.
Grammys.
Sorry, I just love J-Lo so much. I like to insert her in every conversation.
Yeah, that was the thing that spawned Google image search. Was that dress specifically because everybody wanted to see it, and that's when Google, like they said that they added image.
That
search.
was it. Yeah, that was the original. Oh, one great MTV moment that wasn't just performance based, but also like us loving radio and broadcast. When Kurt Loder, they were on some like riser, Kurt Loder's interviewing a little bit more of an evolved Madonna, because Madonna had always been so shock value when she was younger. And Madonna's still really young in this particular era. But then the new girl in town was Courtney Love. And she's throwing a compact up there. And Kurt Loder's over here just like, let's invite her up. Let's make a, in his head, or even the producer, let's make a scene. And it was just one of those really good moments. I think, what does Madonna say? She shades her so lightly. They're talking about all these really great things at the award show, and Madonna goes, and apparently there's a lot of really great drugs that are here too.
Yes, that
very
was
subtle
behind Madonna.
Yeah
She's since regressed.
Yeah
She's had her eras though.
Yeah.
She has had her. Madonna is always going to be a career reinvention throughout it all, and that's what I do love about her. She's going to misstep sometimes, but she's really wonderful. I have that clip real quick. I just think it's really fun taking a shot. I say with, but it wasn't with. Taking a shot with Reba McEntire. This clip is just it's not the greatest, but here we go.
Hey, let's go to the fans. Ronnie from Los Angeles has a question for Reba McEntire. Ronnie, what's your question?
Andy and Troy, I got love for you, but I cannot believe I am sitting here with Reba McEntire. I got to take a shot before I do anything.
All right. Nice. Doing a shot. What's your question?
Reba, even though you were previously appearing on The Voice as a mentor, did you get any advice from Kelly Clarkson on how to be a judge?
No, I didn't get any advice, but she told me I was going to have a blast. That was the best job, one of the best jobs she's ever had. She said, you're going to have a blast with everyone, and she is so right.
That's great. Let's go to Hillary.
um,
And I like that she's still like cool with Kelly Clarkson, it seems, even though
Mhm.
you know, messy divorce with her son.
Right. Oh, yeah. Which kind of makes the question a little shady. She didn't really jump on it, but that's what I love, and I guess I kind of referenced it when we were talking about Jada and all entertainers for that matter. Like I always look at like who is it? Like Whoopi Goldberg's always like, oh, I don't use Twitter, where everyone else sort of kind of has to. If you've made it a career for yourself years ago, you don't have to go and play in the mess that is going on a lot of times. And it's unfortunate for entertainers these days, theater entertainers, singers, opera singers, radio talent, that everyone has to get so messy. So I really bask in, and that's why this moment was so wonderful with Reba, that I'm talking to a superstar, just virtually through the Skype, but a superstar that came up in an era that they didn't have to show everything. I think there's something really pure and fresh about that, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We're not at that level, so I'm about to out you on something right now, John.
Look at Angie's like, we're going to get our career to the top, and I'm dropping a scandal on Tuesday.
Working culture?
Yeah. No, I don't have any dirt on you. If anything, you have dirt on me.
This was great talking pop culture with you guys. I could do it, many a times.
Yeah, let's do it one day.
Yeah.
We get to talking. You guys, I will say, are a really good radio team, and wherever everyone ends up going, be it myself or the two of you, like I just want us all to succeed. I look at it as like I like the breakdown of the two. Angie with the kids, a little bit younger. You speak to that demographic maybe a smidge more. You're getting married, or you're married, but you're having a kid for the first time. Like to go on that journey as a fan or as a listener to your show is really wonderful. And I think you guys got something special. So and I know you already have your confidence high, but I want your confidence to remain to the top, because you guys are good people, and there ain't many people I like. So yeah, I don't like a lot of people, but I see a product in you guys. I feel like, there should be somebody should drop some checks your way very soon, because you have it. I don't want you guys to ever forget that.
Well, thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
And
We
we wish the
appreciate
same
that.
for you too.
Oh, thank you. I do my best. All right, we'll talk on the next one. Thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.